I have spoken to people. I have dived a little bit more and more as the day goes on into film of these guys. And to be honest, I went from Ben Morrison is my guy. Maybe the Steelers make an offensive splash and go Ashton Genty. How could you pass up Gray Zabel if he's there 21 because he's climbing fast? I mean, even names like Will Johnson have somehow slid to the Pittsburgh Steelers in recent mock drafts. I've gone all over the board, and what I have found is that the Pittsburgh Steelers have an opportunity to juice up the defensive line more than any other position in this draft class. And this is not a draft to sit around and say, we need a quarterback, so we're going to go get a quarterback. We need a running back, so we're going to get a running back. We need a wide receiver, so we're going to go get a wide receiver. No, this is a draft to say we need young defensive linemen. Art Rooney made that very clear. Mike Tomlin made that very clear. I'm sure when I speak to Omar Khan tomorrow, he's going to make that very clear that they need young defensive linemen. And this draft class is loaded with them. Loaded. I'm talking to the gills. Maxed out. It is the best position in the NFL draft by far. And that includes names that will be there at 21. I have one guy in the first round that I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers will select come April 27th. And then I have one guy in the second round that I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers will select come April 28th. And they play the same position somewhat, and they are complete game changers to where the Steelers are headed in the right way. Here they are. With the first round pick 21 in the 2025 NFL draft, I'm feeling pretty confident in Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss being the Pittsburgh Steelers selection. I look at Walter Nolan as, he's the self-proclaimed next Aaron Donald. And to be honest with you, that's a giant shoe to fill. Maybe too big, maybe impossible to fill, but I'm taking a chance on him. I think this dude's a stud. His transition from Texas A&M to Ole Miss was seamless, and his ability to make massive plays at Ole Miss is exactly what the Steelers need. I believe he had 6.5 sacks his final season at Ole Miss, 14 tackles for loss, something like that. This is a guy that he is a defensive tackle in all settings. He can replace Larry Ogunjobi. He is an instant starter and a dude that you look at the names who have come out of the draft in recent years, who have made massive impacts. Jared Verse out of LA is the one that stands out to everybody because of what he did in the playoffs this past season. I think that Walter Nolan has that impact. He sits there in my head right below a Kenneth Grant, who, you take either one of those Michigan guys, they are phenomenal. Phenomenal. I think Walter Nolan is just a small notch below that. Obviously, Kenneth Grant would be a huge landing for the Steelers, but I am all in on Walter Nolan. I think he is a phenomenal football player and has insane upside. He's a day one starter. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you don't even have to make him a day one starter because you have Cam Hayward. You have this guy named Cam Hayward who's going to start in front of him while you move Keanu Benton over. Maybe you keep Keanu Benton where he is. But to be honest, I'd move Keanu over one. I would start him and Cam Hayward. Walter Nolan be coming off the bench. And this next name would be starting a nose tackle. Because in the second round, again, where we sit here right now, I think the Steelers are going to double dip. And I'm not crazy to say this. I promise you I'm not. You could sit here and say, and everybody could sit here and say, they need a running back. They need this. They need that. I agree. And if the board does not fall the way that they believe it will fall, I understand that. They could make an immediate change. Running back is certainly on the list. I don't think a second round wide receiver is that high for the Steelers, to be honest. I think they'd wait till the third or the fourth. I look at the second round and say, if Darius Alexander's there out of Toledo, he is the guy. He's 6'4" or something, 320 pounds on a light day. And he is just, that's what he is. He is a shove the helmet on, barely fits, stand in the middle of the field, and nobody's getting by up the middle type of football player. And that is what the Steelers need. They need a nose tackle. They've needed a nose tackle. You want to stop the run? You go get Darius Alexander. I have a feeling he's going to improve and really move up the draft board. But if he does not, the Steelers would luck out so much double dipping at defensive tackle in this one. Those are my two names. I truly believe if the draft happened today and the board fell the way the Steelers would love it to fall, they would get Walter Nolan in the first round and they would double dip with Darius Alexander in the second, and their defensive line would be fixed. They'd be good to go. And you want to know what everybody will say, you're crazy. What are you talking about? You want to know what the Steelers live and die on? That defensive front. They could care less if Dante Jackson's playing corner as long as the guys up front aren't letting anybody get by and they're sacking the quarterback. That's how they've won Super Bowls in the past. That's how they'll try to win them in the future. Walter Nolan and Darius Alexander, if it happened today, would be my selections for the Steelers. And they are my predictions for the Steelers as we stand here today. Was going to put out a mock draft today. Maybe I'll put one out tomorrow. Those are my names. Your thoughts?
The old Andy Weidl special, if that is indeed the way they go. 5 of the 6 first and second round picks that the Steelers have made since Weidl Khan took over are big men, right? Broderick Jones in 2023, then they took Joey Porter Jr. But then you look at last year, and it's Troy Fautanu and Zach Frazier. And then you'd go to the defensive side and build it from the big men. They just watched the team in the same state do that and win a Super Bowl.
Yep.
The belief and the thought process is sound. So if they end up doing that, it's not what I expected. It's not what a lot of people expected. And everybody wants to see them draft the next superstar that's going to score touchdowns and put up yards and be in conversations for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Nobody put Zach Frazier in conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year, but guess what? He was probably one of the best rookies in the NFL last year. Andy Weidl, Omar Khan, they have told you time and time again, we're investing in the big boys. If they did that, it would go right along the line of their first 2 NFL drafts. And honestly, it's hard to refute. You look at the back end of that, the Steelers have always been built from the front to the back on the defensive side of the football. They've always said every year, what do they need to do first? We need to stop the run. We need to stop the run. Yeah, rushing the quarterback's great. Blitzburg, whatever. We need to stop the run. That's important. And if you go out and get these 2 guys, that's just accentuating the fact that this front office values the big guys up front. They've done it on the offensive side for their first 2 drafts. That would be them taking a very hard look and a very hard stance, saying we need to now protect the big guys and build the big guys on the defensive, the defensive side of the ball.
Yep, I agree. You could look at their offseason as a whole and say they are laying out a lot of ideas and a lot of hints at where they're going. The running back room is open, but we're obviously interested in Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. All right, great. Chances are they're bringing one back, and they will bump running back down the list. Wide receiver, there is a job opening, and they are trying to make a splash, but they're not going to wait around for the NFL draft to make that splash. That room's going to be filled. It's not going to be filled to capacity. There's going to be room for another addition, but that room it's going to have enough names to say you could pass on a first-round wide receiver, and the Steelers almost always pass on a first-round wide receiver. Just like you said, they watched it. They sat there and watched that Super Bowl, and they thought the same thing everybody else did. Wow, we were wrong. We were all wrong. You don't beat the Chiefs by scoring 60 points. You beat the Chiefs by beating Patrick Mahomes, by literally beating Patrick Mahomes. And that's what they did. And the Steelers are looking at it going, all right, well, if that's what we want to do, we have the formula. We have the pieces in TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig and Keanu Benton. Now it's time to finish it off, And that's the thing is you look at the Steelers have made guys, and this is no disrespect to any of these guys. Bryant McFadden, William Gay, at a time, Ross Cockrell, who I bring up constantly on this show. They have made Patrick Peterson and Ahkello Witherspoon, and you name it, they've done it, look pretty okay with solid pass rush to make sure that quarterbacks do not have the time to get a ball out clean and make it efficient. And I think that's what's coming this season is a total reshape. No more Band-Aids. Let's find the next Stephon Tuitt, Javon Hargraves, Cam Hayward, and you could do that with Darius Alexander, Walter Nolan, and Keanu Benton.